Welcome to the REI Foundation podcast, where we cover all the steps and strategies to make your real estate dreams a reality. Now your hosts, Jason and Pili.
So do you fix and flip houses or invest in real estate or just want to get started doing so? Well, Alpha Funding has you covered with fast, flexible, and reliable service and rates starting as low as 8.99%. Fast closings, no tax documentation or bank statements required, no prepayment penalties, seasoning, or minimum draw requirements. Alpha Funding, the softer side of hard money. To get yourself pre-approved today, go to alphafunding.com or call 732-657-2014. Well, hello again, and welcome to another edition of the Real Estate Investing Foundation podcast. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for coming back and listening to today's show. We have a great guest for you, Devin Redmond. Devin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. And Devin has acquired, developed, and managed investment property both professionally and personally across Northern California since 2005. Devin has an innovative new software to share with the real estate investors listening today. He's currently head of customer success at Stessa, a free software platform that gives millions of real estate investors with single-family rentals and multifamily buildings to track income and expenses, get organized for tax time, and securely store and retrieve key documents. Devin's long-running love-hate relationship with Excel, I know, I've been there, uniquely positioned him to help investors' reliance on spreadsheets once and for all. Well, this sounds awesome, Devin. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Great. Yeah. Glad to be here.
So give us a quick recap. So you have investing background. What was the point where you were investing and you said you wanted to find something to really just to help your business along, and which led you into Stessa?
Yeah, so it was actually an interesting journey. I worked in commercial real estate, mostly office and R&D assets here in Northern California, acquisitions and asset management from basically 2005 to 2012, 2013. So we did a lot of acquisitions in the first couple of years. We paid kind of premium pricing, and then we spent the next few years sort of working through difficult situations through the economic downturn. And so my job then was a lot of meeting with tenants, doing workouts, trying to figure out how to help them stay in business, how we could keep our assets. And so I learned a lot about, what can go wrong and creative ways to work with your lenders and work with your tenants to kind of stay afloat, right? And then sort of at the end of that 6-7 year period, we started a family. I had little kids. I needed a little bit of a break, and so I started an e-commerce business and kind of did my own thing for a few years. And then 4 or 5 years later, I circled back and got interested in finding something that was on the tech side, because I've been doing the e-commerce thing, that then also combined my prior real estate experience. And so I got connected with Heath and Jonah, the two founders of Stessa, and they had created this product. And at the time, they were very focused on institutional investors and syndicators who are doing larger deals, and putting together a software program that helped them communicate with their limited partners and keep track of all of the various things going on in their real estate business.
Awesome. So yeah. What is Stessa? How are we using it today? What's the elevator pitch that you give out?
Yeah, so Stessa today, sorry, my light just kind of flickered off here. Yeah, so the elevator pitch on Stessa today is that over the past year, we've moved more to the long tail. So more regular investors, people with 2 to 10 assets in their portfolio.
Awesome.
When you've got one or two properties, you're probably not feeling a lot of pain yet. You can keep track of everything on your own. Once you start to grow your portfolio, things get a little more complicated. And there's a lot of benefit for staying more organized, being on top of your income and expenses. And then we found that a lot of these investors, as they grow, they have a hard time figuring out exactly how they're doing. What does their cash flow look like? What's their yield look like? How much equity do they have invested? And so our software is kind of like Mint or Personal Capital, if you're familiar with those two programs, in that you can connect in your bank accounts. You can connect to your property manager if they use AppFolio for reporting. And then we have a transaction ledger and dashboards that kind of bring everything together automatically. And so it's taking a lot of that work that individual investors do on their own in Excel, moving numbers around, and putting it in a standardized format that's based on all of our conversations with investors about how they're looking at their deals, how they're tracking things.
That's great. What would have been some of the biggest stress points for investors when they are managing their own assets that you feel that Stessa really alleviates in the foremost or forefront?
Yeah, number one, keeping track of the hundreds or thousands of income and expense items that flow through and around your properties in a given year. So everything that goes on your credit card, everything that comes in from all your bank accounts, your mortgage lenders, keeping track of all of that and seeing it in one place has been a huge pain point.
That's
and
awesome.
where things like Mint and Personal Capital are great for your personal or household financials, they really do a terrible job when it comes to real estate assets. And so we've built Stessa to be purpose-built for handling real estate specific issues. And so in our transaction ledger, for example, we've got 50 different categories that are custom built for real estate. And all of those categories then line up with Schedule E reporting for tax time. So it makes, producing this output for your CPA. We kind of get you to the 10-yard line, and then it's up to you and your CPA to get over the finish line. But we make it a lot easier and much more streamlined.
So for someone who's just managing their own properties right now, maybe a bit unorganized, how difficult of a process is it for them to pick up with Stessa and transfer everything over?
Yeah, so it depends how many properties you have, but it's very easy to set up your first property and get a feel for how it works. So it's a free platform. You just hit the website, you enter a property address. We immediately then go out and ping a bunch of different public records and put together a preliminary profile of the property. So we'll go get your tax records, we'll get some photos, we'll get as much data as we can about the acquisition, because some of that is also public records. And then we'll ask for a few key pieces of info, like a rent roll, and then boom, you've got a dashboard. From there, you can go in a little deeper, you can connect your bank accounts. If you're not comfortable doing that yet, for whatever reason, you can upload a CSV or data file that you download from your bank directly into Stessa and get your transaction data in that way. And then basically 2 clicks, you can run reports. You can run a net cash flow report, you can run an income statement, and then you can run a tax package export. So it's pretty quick for that first property. If you've got 10 properties, yeah, it's going to take you a couple hours to get set up and get a feel for it. But compared to something like QuickBooks, which is general purpose accounting software, that's going to require 6, 7, 8 hours of setup probably to get it dialed in for your real estate business. So that's the biggest difference.
That's awesome. Now, does Stessa provide a tenant screening or tenant application process within it, the platform?
We do not yet have anything on the tenant side.
Okay.
So it's something we're looking into. We may get into that eventually as kind of a premium service. Credit checks, rent collection, background reports, that sort of thing.
Awesome. And now for property side, you said at first it started as an institutional partner or looking for institutional partners or syndicators. Is there a size of property that exceeds what Stessa is meant for at this point?
Yeah, so I would say once you get up to maybe 15 or 20 properties, it still can work really well for you. But we find that a lot of people, when their portfolio gets that big, they start to, they've got more investors and they end up with a sort of management or fund layer on top of their real estate business. And so there's sometimes accounting needs that come out of that, reporting needs that I think, we'll eventually do a really good job of handling those, but we're not quite there yet. So, but we certainly do have people on the platform with, 50 or 100 properties.
Oh, get out. So people are using it from a large point perspective. Where is Stessa growing into? What some of the things coming up that you're working towards?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is this secure document storage feature. So we've been working on that quite a bit the past month. And the idea there is that you'll be able to upload leases, settlement statements, whatever documents are relevant to your portfolio. And then, they're easily indexed and searchable for quick reference. And then eventually we'll also build in, connections between those documents and key parts of the dashboard or the software so that, when you're looking at your rent roll, there'll be a quick link to the lease next to each tenant's name, right? So that sort of thing where it becomes much more interconnected and easy to sort of jump around and find the right information. Because we find that a lot of people, they use like, they're using Microsoft OneDrive or, other online document storage. And so they've got 3 different places to go sometimes to find information. So it's part of our idea of trying to put everything accessible in one place.
Alpha Funding Solutions offers creative financing tailored to your individual needs. Whether you're fixing and flipping distressed properties or building ground-up construction, Alpha offers flexible financing to get the job done. With no minimum draw requirements, no prepay penalties, and no seasoning requirements, borrowers can create a construction loan that best suits their individual needs. Everything at Alpha is done in-house, from the sales force to underwriting, construction management, and draw payouts. The team at Alpha works as a unit to best serve their happy family of over 1,000 borrowers. Experience the Alpha difference today. Visit www.alphafunding.com or call 732-657-2014. Again, that's alphafunding.com, and the number is 732-657-2014. There's nothing to lose and everything to gain. Alpha Funding Solutions, the softer side of hard money.
And then the other thing we're working on is around short-term rentals. So we found that a lot of people come into the software looking to make it work for their short-term rental and keeping track of their data. And so we've added some categories to make it work better for short-term rentals. We're also working on a tweak to the rent roll so that you can set up nightly rates and average occupancy during the year. And my impression is that those types of investors don't have a good comparable product out there.
That's a great point, right? So yeah, having a comp strategy for the short-term rentals, for the investors that are coming to your portal to use it. I'm curious, how much do you see that's actually made up of the short-term rental sector?
Yeah, so I would say it's 5% or less of our user base, people coming into the product. That's not to say that there aren't more of those investors out there. I think there definitely are. We just haven't spent a lot of time or money targeting them specifically. I also know that there are many long-term renters who, if they were more aware of the opportunity of moving to short-term, might go that route. And so that's part of what we're trying to do, is to give people a little bit of perspective. And if you enter your long-term rent roll into Stessa, then it's relatively easy for us to do some benchmarking and say, hey, here's what you're looking at on, your long-term rents in place right now. Here's where we think you might be able to go if you went short-term.
Yeah, that would be valuable, right? Giving them
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, there's legal issues and regulations, and it's getting tighter in a lot of places. So we need to kind of figure out that part of it. But at least in terms of like sizing the opportunity that, hey, you might be able to increase your monthly income by 20-30% by going short term. That's interesting.
Of the remaining 95% or so of customers who come on board, how many of them are really just tracking this pencil and paper versus who are maybe using competing software and transfer over?
Yeah, I would say, almost everyone's using either Excel or Google Sheets, especially if, they're coordinating with their spouse or other investors. They're probably using Google Sheets to track some of this stuff. But we find it's a huge range. And a lot of these people, they share things amongst their meetup group locally. But a lot of it's sort of like homegrown spreadsheets, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of standard around, okay, this is how you calculate your cash on cash return, right? Some people exclude their mortgage principal, some people include it, right? And so we're trying to take a lot of that richness and then build it into our product in ways that are standardized and lets people sort of have similar assumptions when they're talking about things and comparing numbers.
when Stessa was first created, what the founders' ideas, what was their main goal in solving if they would have one principal effect?
Maybe
It's hard to ask you because you're not them, but in that part, if you see it, I guess, on paper, what was the biggest pain point that you're trying to get Stessa to go in there and fix for the communities?
Yeah, I'd say this feeling that as you grow and as you scale, you get less and less organized, and things get harder and harder to keep track of. Originally the frustration that Heath had was that Silicon Valley's been really good at creating tools, dashboards, ways to stay on top of what's happening on your personal finances. So in the stock market, right? If you've got a stock portfolio, you can get all kinds of great like real-time data. You can often customize your setup, and you know exactly how you're doing and how things are performing. And so he was a real estate investor on the side and had a growing portfolio and was increasingly frustrated with the sort of lack of visibility into what's actually happening. He's got 3 different property managers, 12 different tenants, 4 different properties. And so like there's short of like going out to the property and poking around, right? Or having separate one-off phone conversations with each of your property managers, he didn't know how he was doing.
Got it.
And so that's where the original frustration and impetus for creating the software came from.
Yeah, clarity builds confidence and certainty all at the same time. So yeah, Devin, I love it. It.
Yeah. I mean, it's only as good as the data coming in, right? So you got to get clean data coming in. We find that people on our platform who do have property managers, a lot of times we'll get connected to the property management data, and then that helps them understand that something's going on at the property or with the property manager that's not quite what it should be, right? And so that's the kind of visibility that then leads to sort of actionable insights and changes.
Does it, for tracking the data, does it give any point where it may, I don't know, green, yellow, or red, a line item if something's out of character, say the water bill goes up by 60% in 1 month? Is there something of an alert or any parts in there?
Yeah, so not yet, but that's absolutely a place we want to go once we have enough data from any particular investor and related to any specific address. Over time, we can start to benchmark and say, hey, here, this one's out of range.
I love it.
So we're not doing that yet. Right now, it's up to the individual investor to use our reporting, and you can very quickly run month-to-month comparisons. You can look at last 12 months, and you can see all 50 categories if you want to on one or 2 pages. So it's really easy to go through and see if things out of range. And then, logical next step for us is to do that for you automatically, and then surface the right numbers. So right now we have like, if the amount of rent coming into this platform in a given month is less than we expect, we send you an email alert right now. So we're starting to do those sorts of things.
That's great. Well, Devin, this has been great. For people that want to know more about Stessa and want to know more about your product, where's the best way to connect with you or connect with to learn about the product?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great info just on our public website. So that's www.stessa, stessa.com. And then there's links on there where you can set up a property in 5 minutes and get a feel for it. And then there's a couple of kind of intro product tours that'll take you through the key features and kind of let you know what's going on and what it can do for you.
That's awesome. Devin, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time. And Stessa, I think it's awesome. I actually have 2 Airbnbs. It's the only properties that we don't have on software. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to put it in there and we'll report back and tell you everything we're going to use and everything we love about it.
Okay. Yeah, the short-term rental stuff is brand new for us, so I'd love to hear how it goes.
Good. Well, Devin Redmond, thanks so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And this is Jason with the Real Estate Investing Foundation podcast. Huge thank you to all the listeners out there. Again, if you like what you hear, please go over to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating and review. It helps more people find out all about everything we're putting on the podcast, so they find out more about Devin and Stessa. So go out there. Thanks again. Make it happen. We'll talk to you shortly. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning into the REI Foundation podcast. Check back next time for more awesome tips and strategies to launch your new you in real estate.